This is Global Tennessee, news, analysis, and commentary from the Tennessee World Affairs Council in Nashville. Global Tennessee is produced in association with the Center for International Business at Belmont University and the International Business Council of the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. The World Affairs Council is a nonpartisan, nonprofit educational association, and the views expressed on Global Tennessee are those of the participants.
Good day and welcome to the Global Nashville with Karl Dean program from the Tennessee World Affairs Council. I'm Patrick Ryan, president of the council. It's 10 a.m. in Nashville and it's sunny and hot. We're in the 90s again. And with that good old Tennessee humidity, it feels like 100 degrees or about 38 Celsius. In Belfast, Northern Ireland, it's 4 p.m. and temperatures are in the middle 50s. And with my 100% Celtic blood, it would seem I'm in the wrong city. Let me welcome our friends in Nashville and Belfast and to our new friends joining us from around the nationwide network of World Affairs Councils of America. Today we have a special program for you. Mayor Dean will be talking with Alderman Frank McCoubrey, Lord Mayor of Belfast, a sister city of Nashville. They will talk about the relationship between the cities and the challenges of heading a municipal government. Being a mayor is a tough job. It's nearly impossible to make everyone happy. An American president, Lyndon Johnson, remarked over 50 years ago, "When the burdens of the presidency seem unusually heavy, I always remind myself it could be worse. I could be a mayor." Let me introduce our distinguished guests. We welcome the Lord Mayor. Alderman Frank McCoubrey represents the court area of West Belfast. He has achieved the rare honor of serving as High Sheriff, Deputy Lord Mayor, and now Lord Mayor of Belfast. He has served on the Belfast City Council since May 1997 and assumed his office as Lord Mayor this spring. You can find more details about our guests on our website, tnwac.org. Also joining us from Belfast is John Greer. John is Director of Economic Development at Belfast City Council, where he leads a team delivering economic development, tourism, festivals, heritage, and market strategies. He was previously a director at the Special European Union Programs Body, and he has worked in business development and foreign direct investment in Vancouver and Silicon Valley. Anya Malahan, based in Chicago, is responsible for the USA Midwest operations for Invest Northern Ireland, an agency within the Northern Ireland government responsible for growing the economy. She has worked with top US companies to build jobs in Northern Ireland. On this side of the pond, we welcome John Scanapiaco. John leads the global business team at Baker Donaldson, a distinguished Nashville law firm. Among his many contributions to the community is his service on the board of our World Affairs Council. And importantly, for this conversation, John is the Honorary Consul General of the United Kingdom in Tennessee. And for our friends joining the webinar who might be new to details about Nashville, let me introduce our host, Karl Dean. An attorney by trade, Karl Dean served as Nashville's 68th mayor from 2007 to 2015, a period of challenges and opportunities for our city. Mayor Dean took office as the city and country, indeed the world, dipped into the Great Recession. A few years later, he led the city through recovery from a catastrophic flood. Despite those setbacks, Nashville, known as America's Music City, under his leadership established a foundation for major growth. Downtown Nashville was transformed by adding a new minor league baseball stadium, a riverfront amphitheater and park, and a new convention center called the Music City Center. Through the teens, Nashville came to be known as an IT city, making numerous lists as most livable, coolest, and best lists. However, among his top 3 priorities for the city was education, which may have attracted him to service on the board of the World Affairs Council when he left office. Mayor Dean was the Democratic Party nominee for governor of Tennessee in 2018. Before we start, allow me to recognize Sarah Lingo, the Executive Director of Sister Cities of Nashville, and Lori Odom, VP for International Affairs at the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce, and a board member of our World Affairs Council. They were instrumental in setting up this program, and they're working to make more connections with our friends in Belfast. Thanks also to Laura Leonard on the Belfast side for her work making this meeting happen. I encourage you to visit the Sister Cities of Nashville website, where you'll find information about Belfast and about the ties that started in the 1990s. One of the best earliest programs in the Nashville-Belfast relationship was the Youth Exchange Program that encouraged teenagers of both Catholic and Protestant families to come to Nashville and live and work together. The exchange program continues under the direction of Claire Coleman. The Belfast Committee at SCN is chaired by Kate Bentley. You can also learn more about City Cities of Nashville by watching our last episode of Global Nashville with Karl Dean on our channel at youtube.com/TNWAC. Lastly, one of my duties is to invite you to become a member of the Tennessee World Affairs Council or make a contribution supporting our global awareness mission in the community. In addition to bringing you great international affairs speakers like today's program, the Council works with high schools and universities to increase global understanding. Your World Affairs Council is a one-of-a-kind organization in Tennessee, a nonpartisan, independent group working to bring you the world. Please go to tnwac.org to become a member or make a gift. Thank you for that. You can start at any time to add your questions to the Q&A queue at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We may work some questions into the conversation as we go, as well as taking more toward the end of the discussion. Now, let me hand you over to the capable hands of John Scanapiaco. John?
Thank you, Pat. I really appreciate the introduction. And as Pat mentioned, I am privileged to serve in the role as Honorary Consul for Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And in that role, my primary responsibility is to promote bilateral trade and investment between Tennessee and the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland. And I'm really fortunate in that role to have been able to work with members of the UK Department of International Trade, but also with Anya and her team with Invest Northern Ireland. They've been really instrumental in helping us help companies from Tennessee explore opportunities for investment in Northern Ireland and in Belfast as well. I think we're really lucky. Tennessee right now has 118 UK invested businesses that are located here in the state, and those businesses employ over 9,000 Tennesseans. And so, you know, we're really fortunate that we have that special relationship, I think, between the U.S. and the U.K., because it really does make my job a heck of a lot easier when I'm talking either to a U.S. company about maybe exploring an opportunity to invest in the U.K. or in Northern Ireland, and also when I'm working with U.K. companies who are thinking about, you know, investing here. And I think that special relationship really has served as a foundation, if you really look at it, for our mutual prosperity and even security. I mean, we share so many similarities in terms of democratic ideals, values. I would like to say a common language, but I find that most people have no idea what I'm talking about when I'm communicating with them over in the UK, and I clearly miss a whole lot when I'm talking with folks from the UK over here as well. But I think, though, you know, we're entering a new phase in that relationship. You know, the UK and the US now are negotiating a free trade agreement, and once, I don't say if, but when we reach an agreement, I believe that will create even more opportunities for both Tennessee companies and UK and Northern Ireland companies to come here. But what I think makes this event so important, though, is that many of us really don't know how similar, say, Belfast and Nashville really are, and how, you know, if I ask anybody in Nashville about the UK, the first thing they're going to mention is London. London, London, London. I want to go to London. But they miss out on some just wonderful opportunities like a city like Belfast really has. And I think if you look at the similarities, both very entrepreneurial, have large creative classes, a great music industry, first-class universities, which then lead to just a well-educated workforce. I mean, that's just a few. I mean, there's so many more. But I always feel so comfortable when I visit Belfast. You know, it's that same, I would say, southern hospitality, but in a northern clime, which is very different from my hometown of Boston. I'll say that. The hospitality is much greater. So anyway, I just feel like this is a perfect opportunity, and I'm so grateful for all of you to share, you know, more about Belfast and what Belfast and Nashville maybe can do together. And I'm disappointed that we were unable to visit this summer to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Belfast-Nashville Sister City relationships. I know it was one of our early relationships, and it's, I think, one of our strongest relationships. So you're not here to hear from me. We're here to hear from the Lord Mayor. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mayor Dean, and let the program begin. But thank you very much.
Great.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you, Lord Mayor, for agreeing to be with us, and thank you to all your team in Belfast and also in Chicago. You know, my take on sister cities has been that it's been a great thing for the city of Nashville. It was something I was active in when I was mayor and have remained very supportive of it. And Belfast stands out as really one of the strongest relationships that we have. I believe it's the first sister city, if not the first, the second. And it is one that there are visits back and forth between the two cities every year. And obviously this COVID situation has thrown a wrench into the things right now, but it is a very strong and very stable relationship. It was the first sister city that I went to after I became mayor, and it's probably in '07, and had a wonderful time and thought it was a beautiful city with so much to see and so much to do, not only within the city of Belfast, but surrounding areas around Belfast. So, Lord Mayor, I want to start basically by first getting to know you a little bit. We had some background information in terms of you've served in other positions in the government. But first of all, could you tell us what are the responsibilities of the Lord Mayor? How long have you been Lord Mayor, and how do you achieve that position?
Well, I got involved in politics around about 1995. And at that time, there was a great hype in Northern Ireland, where there was a lot of talk about a peace process. And I had the opportunity for 2 years to be part of that process, which brought about the Good Friday Agreement. During that time, I had opportunities to travel to America. And one of my fondest memories was attending Harvard University, where I was lectured by Senator Edward Kennedy. And that was a great experience for me as a young man, just getting involved in politics. I was greatly involved in community politics at the time. I lived in a socially deprived area of the greater Belfast area called the Shankill Road. And I wanted to get involved in local politics. So in 1997, I had an opportunity to stand in the local government elections. And you could say the rest is history. I've been here, part of this great institution, Belfast City Council, for almost 24 years now. As you quite rightly said, your colleague said earlier on, I've been High Sheriff, Deputy Lord Mayor, and I waited a long time, but I finally, a month ago, got to be Lord Mayor of Belfast, which is very proud, and I'm very honoured to take that role up. So that's basically how I got involved in politics. Obviously, it was surreal when I was elected on the 1st of June. When I went to my office in the City Hall and looked out the window, and there was nobody about. The place was like a ghost town. At that stage, we were just about coming out of some of the lockdowns that had been imposed as a result of the COVID-19. People in Belfast and throughout Northern Ireland have been very disciplined through that. And, you know, we're now seeing a bit of life coming back to the city. I had the opportunity, and one of the things that I instructed our staff to do for me was to get out into the city and to meet as many people as I could. So I've had the opportunity to do that and to get out to some of our retailers to see the work that they have had to put in place to protect both themselves and the people who's going to be shopping in their shops. So we're getting a bit of buzz about now, so we are. There's more people about, you know, shops are opening. The hospitality industry got the go-ahead to open with restrictions last week. So we're hopeful that things are going to come back to normal in the city of Belfast.
What are the responsibilities of the Lord Mayor?
Well, my main job is to preside over the council meetings. At the minute, that has been very difficult because I have held 2 council meetings and it's been done through Zoom. So you're trying to keep on top of 60 odd councillors who are all leaving messages at the side of a large screen. They want to come in and contribute to the debates. So that has all been new for us here in Belfast. But I think I've coped very well. My other job is to promote and to raise the awareness and objectives and priorities and issues that affect the city of Belfast, and encourage and support all aspects of the life here in the city. It's a very diverse city now, so it is. Belfast is buzzing, so it is. 3 months ago, it was a great place to visit. There was cruise ships on a regular basis coming in, and part of the job as Lord Mayor was to greet the people coming to visit the city of Belfast. And also a very important role is to receive distinguished visitors from other cities throughout the world.
Good. And I have to ask you, I'm sure people have noticed you have something around your neck. And,
Yeah.
And what is that? And how does it fit into your work?
Well, this is my chain of office. So if I'm going out on any official duties, this is the chain that I have to wear. There's over 1.5 kilos of gold in it, so it's very heavy. So it does, and all these different emblems around it is different shields for counties and throughout the Northern Ireland. So there's a lot of history in it. I'm actually given a brochure when I come in the office, and I'm supposed to read up on it, but all I can tell you at the minute, it's very heavy. It's well received when I don't walk about the city centre. As soon as people see the chain, they know it's the Lord Mayor of Belfast. So I'm very honoured to have it around my neck, and I thought it was important to put it on today to let you see it.
Yes, so I'm glad you did. And you're addressed as Lord Mayor. This is the title.
Yep, Lord Mayor of Belfast. Yep.
Good. And can you tell us a little bit about Belfast? What's the population? What is the economy based on there?
Yeah, well, Belfast, Northern Ireland has around about 1.8 million people living in it. Almost 650,000 of those people live in and around the greater Belfast area. The city was founded on the famous Harlem Wolff shipyard, and is well renowned and famous for building the Titanic. It's also famous for its rope works and for the linen industry, and the Irish linen is well received throughout the world. It was a massive industry here that helped the foundations of Northern Ireland. In more recent times, our focus now is on the high-tech industries, cyber security, and our film industry has taken off. As you all know, the locations over here was used and they were filmed for the Game of Thrones. And that has brought major investment into Northern Ireland as a whole, with people wanting to come and see those famous locations that appeared, in the Game of Thrones. Fintech and advanced manufacturing, it's one of the areas that we're looking at as well. We've also throughout the world, the famous people that have came from Belfast, Northern Ireland, the likes of Van Morrison, the singer. Kenneth Branagh, who's an actor, James Galway, the musician, C.S. Lewis, the writer, Ruby Murray, Thomas Andrews, who was a shipbuilder involved in the building of the Titanic, and of course our famous George Best, one of the world's best footballers. So Northern Ireland and Belfast has a lot to has a big story to tell. And there's one thing about it, anybody who comes here will always tell you that they get a great welcome, a great hospitality. And that's the memories that we want people to take away from this great city. Right,
very, very, very friendly city. And I always heard when I was there, the Titanic Museum had not opened yet. They were working on it. And that is, I'm sure, is a major draw for tourists. I mean, everybody's fascinated by the Titanic, but I had several people tell me when they mentioned that the Titanic had been built in Belfast, that it left Belfast in good shape, that it was fine when it left. And what happened later, what you've mentioned the lockdown. When did the pandemic hit the Belfast area?
It was around about the end of March, the beginning of April. And that's when the lockdown began and the restrictions were put in place. And it was hard to get used to at the beginning. because it's a city that's renowned for going out and enjoying itself, and it just couldn't get adopted that everywhere was closing. Only the bare necessity shops and things where people had to go and buy food. So it was very difficult, but what I can tell you is the people of the city of Belfast and throughout Northern Ireland were very disciplined. And I think that reflects the beginning of this pandemic. They were suggesting that there could be in the thousands and thousands of people that lost their lives here in Northern Ireland. And I think the last account was around about just over 500 people, sadly, has lost their lives. So that's, I believe, down to a result of people abiding by the rules and regulations that was set out by the government and the great discipline that they had and seeing that out.
Good, good. And right now you're emerging from the lockdown and things are going well?
Yeah, absolutely. Belfast City Council has played a major role. You know, it was important that we kept the essential services up and running, the likes of the cleansing and road sweeping and lifting people's bins and whatever. So they kept on the whole way through it. So it was very good that they were able to do that. As I said earlier, the first opportunity I was able to get, I went out and spoke to some of the retailers in the city of Belfast and thanked them for all the work that they've done throughout the pandemic and trying to stay open and keep safe. And again, it's great to see the city coming back to life. You know, Belfast 3-4 months ago, it was a fantastic city where you could have came and it was absolutely buzzing. You've seen tourist buses. We've seen the cruise ships coming in and tourists coming to the city hall and visiting all the iconic places in the city of Belfast and further afield, and not just stop. And it's going to take an awful long time for us to get back to a wee bit of normality again, but at least we see a bit of activity on the streets of the city of Belfast, and it's given us a bit of heart now, so it is.
Well, let me ask, I think maybe John Greer, this would be a good question for you. I think there had been plans for a Belfast visit to Nashville in March, which is a traditional time for you all to come over. We have a big St. Patrick's celebration, which we do with our sister city. And then in August, and those had to be canceled because of the pandemic. What were the aims of those trips, and what are people's thoughts about how you keep the sister city relationship moving forward when you can't see each other in person?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we had two trips planned. One in March for the Ireland Festival, and a second in August to visit a large legal technology conference. And I think they provide a good example of the depth of the sister city relationship. A relationship that spans the cultural ties between our two great cities, but also is looking to build the economic bridges between our two great cities. You know, we are interested in learning from Nashville's experiences, understanding Nashville's great culture, and of course understanding how that culture has been influenced by the Northern Ireland diaspora, and particularly the Belfast diaspora. On the economic side, we see a great amount of complementary industries, legal technology being one, cybersecurity being another, and of course the burgeoning sectors around artificial intelligence and so on that are so present already in Nashville. And what we were hoping to do in both visits was explore ways that Nashville companies could investigate business opportunities in Belfast and Northern Ireland. And of course, Northern Ireland companies could be introduced to Nashville companies, explore trade opportunities with those companies. And of course, if either of those companies, Northern Ireland companies or Nashville companies, we're interested in investing, obviously our partners Invest Northern Ireland would play a very vital role in that.
Good, good. And John in Nashville, John, what's the best way for people who are interested, or businesses that are Nashville based that want to seek opportunities in Northern Ireland and Belfast?
What are the best ways? Well, I think the best ways really are once they now they've been introduced to both John Greer at Belfast Economic Development and Anya at Invest Northern Ireland. Those would be, in my opinion, the places that I would contact, because I think they can help them really understand the true extent of the opportunities, what resources are available for them in terms of like we have certain incentives and things like that. It's also, they can reach out to me and I can help them get in contact. Also, the UK Department of International Trade is also a resource. But if they are really looking at Northern Ireland, then I would focus on both Invest Northern Ireland and the Belfast Economic Development Group, because of course they'll be the ones with the most relevant and up-to-date information and can really get them get a lot of information. Much like we would, for example, if you were interested in Nashville, I would say, well, you get the Nashville economic development, or even our state of Tennessee economic development that has that information.
Yeah, and so you serve as honorary consul for Britain and Northern Ireland. How did you get that position, and what do you do?
Sure. So it's interesting. So as you know, I chair our global business team, and my father has been in global businesses, for most of my life, and it really exposed me to just the wonders of the world, in the sense of all these people from different countries would come through our house as a kid. And so this is something I've always wanted to do. And so when I took on this role, I'm always a big believer in let's put more in the pot than we take out. So I realize that we all have limited resources. So how can we all help each other promote this greater good of trade and investment? And so when the new Consul General came in for the UK, this is now, maybe 8 years ago, I reached out, we met, and I offered to help in any way that I could. And so we hosted pop-up consulates for them. We've hosted other events for the UK government. I've helped people here reach out. And so at some point, the UK government decided to kind of change the role of the honorary consul. They used to serve more in the role of, passports, visas, more the consular functions. Than say the trade and investment functions. But when they decided to change, they reached out, and I just thought we were going to have a lunch just to kind of get caught up. And they asked me if I would serve in this role, and I had to remind them, I am Italian. I mean, Scana Piego. And they said that they would overlook that and let me in. But in any event, so that's how I really got the job. But it is just more from just that, working with them over those years and really trying to promote better relationships between Tennessee and the UK. And then in my role, what I try to do the most is to help businesses really understand there are opportunities in the UK and what those opportunities are. And again, as much as I love London, there are so many other wonderful cities within the UK to explore for investment or even trade, and legal technology, for example. I know a lot of law firms, US law firms, for example, have based a lot of their administrative functions and research functions in, say, Belfast. I know Digital Reasoning, for example, which is literally 1.5 miles from my home where I'm speaking right now, have a big presence in London, but they recently announced an expansion in Belfast. So they're in artificial intelligence, fintech. They do a lot of other, they're into medtech as well. And so they've relocated. So I try to really help promote those opportunities and bring folks, say, from Nashville or Tennessee to the UK, and then vice versa. And I'll help the Consul General meet different people within our region so they have a better understanding of the opportunities that are really here. Because again, most people, we all fight this. I mean, Nashville, Music City, but think about it. Nashville is so much more, than just music.
Right. Anya, do you have anything you want to add? You're here in the United States, in Chicago, and you're doing economic development work for Belfast.
That's right. So I work with Invest Northern Ireland, which is the economic development agency for all of Northern Ireland. But obviously Belfast is a very important part of that, given that it's our largest city. I have the very fortunate pleasure of being based here in the US. I'm in Chicago, but I've spent a lot of time in Nashville. Indeed, I'm probably visiting there anywhere between 6 to maybe 8 times a year. and have worked very closely with the Chamber of Commerce, the Nashville Technology Council, the Technology Council, the Healthcare Council, and have met many influencers and stakeholders in Nashville that have been really helpful and instrumental in both driving investment into Northern Ireland, but also working with Northern Ireland companies that are looking for opportunities to either partner with companies in Nashville or open up their own markets into the Tennessee and Nashville area as well. And we've been very successful of driving that business both ways.
Good. And let me ask this question really to any of our Belfast guests or John here in Nashville. We obviously have read a lot about Brexit, and could you talk a little bit about what Brexit means for Northern Ireland, what it means for investment, and where things stand right now?
Mayor, I'm happy to answer that question. So in terms of Brexit, I guess it's like any large change to a market environment, and undoubtedly there may be some challenges with regard to Brexit, but there are potential opportunities, and some of those potential opportunities were referenced earlier in the call when it was referenced the trade agreement between the US and the UK, which we certainly hope to see coming forward. In terms of investment, and Anya will speak to this, I'm sure, Northern Ireland and Belfast has not seen a significant reduction in investment, both in terms of foreign direct investment and also in terms of capital investment in many of its large-scale development projects as a result of Brexit. Now, of course, we keep that under close watch for fear that that may change, but to date, we have still been very successful in attracting capital into Belfast and Northern Ireland, and still very successful in attracting companies to invest in Belfast and Northern Ireland. I mean, just to reference that, Northern Ireland is recognised as the most attractive location for US-owned cybersecurity companies to invest. It is recognized as the top location for financial services development investments from the United States. And I would invite Anya to come in here. Only in recent weeks, we have seen 2 recent investments into Northern Ireland. I believe both were in Belfast. And I think that speaks to the attractiveness of Belfast and Northern Ireland as an investment location, and the resilience of Belfast and Northern Ireland as an investment location. And we certainly are optimistic that those market conditions should prevail through the challenges that might come as a result of Brexit, and also the challenges that will come as we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you. John here in Nashville, you have some questions regarding economics?
Sure, yes. Lord Mayor, this is maybe a question for you, or really for maybe even John as well. We are really struggling here in the United States trying to balance the economic interests with, say, the health and safety interests. How did Belfast kind of handle that? Because I think everyone's struggling with that, but it seems like you've done a really good job where you were able to tamp down the spread, but at the same time now your retailers and businesses are emerging. How did you balance that?
Well, look, I'll answer it and then I'll pass it on to John. You know, speaking from experience and living in Belfast, you know, I seen a great coming together of our communities. You know, they were very, very disciplined. They took on board the seriousness of this pandemic, and you know, it hurt a lot of people. There's a lot of people who didn't see families for months now. And life was just brought to a standstill. But the people in Belfast have come through a lot over the years, and this was just another part of their journey. And I think the discipline part of it was, you can actually see the result now of the way that we're able to bring down some of the lockdowns that was enforced on us, and we've seen the city up and running again. And as I said at the beginning of my presentation, one of the first jobs that I wanted to do as Lord Mayor of Belfast is get out and to walk about the city of Belfast, and to meet as many people as I could, and to go into some of the retailers. And I was very, very encouraged at the work that had been put into the retailers, to their shops, to local businesses, to restaurants, and to put measures in place to make sure that both the customers and the people who work on those premises are kept safe.
Yeah, and I would echo what our Lord Mayor has said, that we were both agile in how we entered lockdown and how quickly the business community adapted to that lockdown. And I think as well, we've got to give credit, as the Lord Mayor's done, to the agility and adaptability of Belfast's residents in terms of how they dealt with lockdown and how they adhered to lockdown, which is probably why we find ourselves in what I would suggest is a relatively enviable position as we come out of the global pandemic. And to the Lord Mayor, as he walked around Belfast, we have been extremely agile in terms of the retail and hospitality businesses, how they have been able to open up and work within the boundaries of social distancing. Other businesses and US businesses such as Allstate and Citigroup are bringing their staff back in a measured and considered way. But I think more importantly, when lockdown happened, we're able to take thousands of staff and essentially turn their business completely virtual in the space of 24 hours. And what we've heard from businesses such as Allstate and PwC and Citigroup is that in doing so, there has been absolutely no reduction in the productivity measures that they use, and that in fact, within their own internal networks and on internal measures, their Northern Ireland operations have been some of the most productive operations within their international network. And again, I think that presents evidence of Belfast and Northern Ireland's resilience, its attitude. And I think that provides an opportunity, because one of the things that we're hearing from businesses as they emerge from the global pandemic, global businesses, is that they are thinking about risk-based supply chains, where they are considering, is their supply chain resilient to global pandemics, and is their risk centered perhaps in a particular geography? And we believe Northern Ireland could provide an opportunity for those businesses who haven't already to diversify their supply chains and place operations in Northern Ireland and Belfast.
Can I just come back
and do you attribute that I'll say resiliency and that discipline to just maybe the culture of Northern Ireland, or was the government there maybe with some regulation and other support? I mean, where does that come from? Because I think that's something that's lacking here in the United States.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think as the Lord Mayor referenced, Northern Ireland has always had an element of resilience in its attitude. You know, I do think an element of good humour always pays dividends when you're facing a crisis, and we've always been flexible. I also think that the government took a very prudent and consultative approach to lockdown, and that has continued throughout. And there has been an element of complete transparency between community, government, and business, and that has served us well.
There was no boundaries here when COVID-19 basically hit Northern Ireland and Belfast, and I seen a coming together of our communities. There was no peace walls. Those peace walls for a time came down, and the communities started working together to make sure that the most vulnerable people within our society was looked after. And some of these people stepped up to the mark and put their own lives at risk to make sure that the people who need it most were looked after. And that was something that I hadn't seen in Northern Ireland in a long time. And I hope as we come out of this pandemic, that whole attitude remains.
I think that's great. I congratulate you on your success, and I obviously wish you continued success with, dealing with these very challenging times. Anya, if I could ask you a question, we've got now the Brexit has occurred, and now the UK and the EU are negotiating the terms of a trade arrangement. What do you believe a deal is likely with respect to the Irish border? I know that's a big issue of concern. And what do you think is the potential impact if no deal is really reached?
Well, I certainly hold optimism, John, that a deal will be reached. We have 6 months left for negotiations to continue. As you know, the UK just rejected that they did not want any extension to those negotiations. So by the end of this year, hopefully, all being well, we'll have a deal in place. There's still a lot of work to be done. There are no more formal meetings until September, I believe, but there's lots of work going on in the background, implementing different aspects of the withdrawal agreement. However, in the event of a no deal, as you know, we will revert to World Trade Organization's terms for tariffs and quotas on any goods coming from the EU into the UK and vice versa. But we do have the Northern Ireland Protocol in place as well, which really aims to avoid any kind of hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland in the event of a no deal. So that really protects the common travel area between the UK, the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland for British and Irish citizens. And it also means that Northern Ireland will still remain in a UK customs territory, but also will follow EU customs code. So that will allow trade between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland without any tariffs. And it will also mean that Northern Ireland will have to stick to some specific EU rules on regulations of goods, state aid, agricultural and environmental regulations. So there is a protection, I suppose, in place there in the event that a no deal actually happens. But back to what John had said, we have seen very little impact so far in any of these, Brexit negotiations so far. And in fact, our foreign direct investment has really picked up. I think Northern Ireland has really been put to the forefront of the stage with these Brexit negotiations. So people are a lot more aware of what Northern Ireland has to offer, what that proposition looks like, who is there and why companies would set up there in the first place. And in fact, even throughout the pandemic, as John alluded to as well, we have continued to bring in investment from US, UK and other international companies. And we're really pleased to say that we'll have, fingers crossed, much more good news to announce over the coming months. So hopefully we will continue business as normal. The Northern Ireland Protocol will be implemented in the event of a no deal, and that really should protect our economy and make sure that we can continue to work on the success that we've had.
Thank you. Now, if I'm a Tennessee company, for example, interested in maybe investing in Northern Ireland, right now we are precluded from traveling. So how would I go about maybe looking at potential sites or locations? Is there like a virtual option, or how are you handling this in this new COVID era?
Yeah, so typically in normal circumstances, we welcome with open arms any Nashville or Tennessee company to come and visit Belfast and Northern Ireland if they're considering that location as somewhere to set up operations. And it's something that we're very, very proud of. We work very closely with Belfast City Council in making sure that any potential investor is welcomed and really gets to know the city and Northern Ireland really well. Obviously, we can't do that right now. So what we have done is implemented virtual visits. So we really want to make sure that our international investors, prospective investors, still get that user experience of what it might be like to be in Belfast, be in Northern Ireland, and get a sense of what it might be like to set up operations there. So we have partnered with the universities, with other companies, other international companies that have set up in Northern Ireland. with properties, a shared space, any existing properties that are available to rent out there. They've pulled all of that together so that a company can actually walk in the footsteps, the virtual footsteps, as if they were actually in Northern Ireland or in Belfast experiencing that for themselves.
That's great. I'm glad you're doing that, because I know I'm actually working with a UK company on this end, and that's how we're going about the process here. And I wanted to make sure there was still that process. And John, for you, the US and the UK are currently negotiating the terms of a free trade agreement. How do you think such a deal will impact Belfast, and how is Belfast maybe planning to take advantage of such a deal? I know it's early; we don't know the details, obviously, but how is Belfast getting ready to take advantage of that?
Well, I think we're planning for that as we've planned all along. That Belfast is very much open for business and open for investment. We were planning to visit Nashville, as I said, in March and August. We would hope to do that in some virtual way later in the summer, and we're in conversations to do just that. We have a range of activities which are directed towards attracting both capital investors to the city and foreign direct investment to the city, and as Anya has done and as Invest Northern Ireland have done, where they're pivoting that to take it virtually. We are doing that as well, so that we continue to market Belfast on a global stage as an international investment location. Now, of course, we need to do a little bit of intelligence gathering to understand what the risk profile looks like for international investment in the future. And I think just now it's probably a little early to get some robust data around that, but that work will take place and will further educate our approach. But we remain very optimistic, as I've said, that Belfast's offering in whatever risk profile, given its resilient nature, given its advanced infrastructure, and given the presence of an international business and investment community already, that Belfast and Northern Ireland will remain a very attractive investment location. We are sorry, of course, that we can't treat any potential investors to the real Belfast and Northern Ireland experience and treat them to some of our renowned hospitality. And of course, we look forward to the day when we can do that. And some of that is for selfish reasons, of course.
Well, and I have to say, for those of you who have never been, you really need to go. Reminds me so much of Nashville in terms of that hospitality. And Mayor Dean, you really did miss out. That Titanic Museum is fantastic. I learned much more than I ever thought about the Titanic. It was great. Well, thank you very much. But before I turn it over to Pat for questions from our audience, is it possible for Anya and John, for you both maybe to share with Pat contact information so folks who may be interested in reaching out have the ability to do so and know where and how to reach both of you, because I think you both would be excellent resources for folks who are interested in learning more and maybe exploring more in more detail opportunities. So thank you both, all of you, and Lord Mayor, you too as well. Thank you very much for participating today. I thought it was very very helpful for our community to learn more about what's happening in Belfast and Northern Ireland. So thank you very much. And Pat, I'll turn it over to you. Because I'm Italian, so I will talk forever. So I'll turn it over to you for some questions.
we noticed with the hand movements.
I know, I can't help it. I've been quarantined for so long, so And
I will collect everyone's contact information, and anybody in the audience or viewing this in the recording, just send me an email at info@tnwac.org. I'll be happy to make the connection. Mayor Dean, no questions in the queue. I think on the Nashville side, it might be too early in the morning for people to get too energized, but we had a really good turnout in attendees. Over to you for any closing comments, and then I'll close the show.
Yeah, well, thank you, Pat. And First, let me thank all our guests for being on the program, and a particular thanks to the Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, have you had a chance to come to Nashville yet?
No, I haven't, but I'm looking forward to coming over as soon as I can. But, you know, Mayor Dean, we have a very important year coming up next year. It's a centenary of the formation of Northern Ireland. And I would be hoping that yourself and some of your guests would be able to make the journey over to be involved in the celebrations with us.
Yeah, I would love to, and I hope to see you here. As I said at the beginning, the relationship between Belfast and Nashville is a special one. It is of long-standing, it is very healthy, and it is very active. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the late Ian Brick, who was from Belfast, who lived in Nashville and was an amazingly successful businessman and doctor, who helped get the relationship going. But it's been an honor to have you here on the program, and I thank you. And Pat, you can sign us off.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And thanks, special thanks to Alderman Frank McCoubrey, Lord Mayor of Belfast, to John Greer in Belfast, to Anya Malahan in Chicago, and John Scanapieko here in Nashville. This was a terrific conversation about our sister cities, and we look forward to having more conversations to expand the bridges that have been built. Also, thanks to Sarah Lingo at Sister Cities of Nashville for helping put this together. On a personal note, let me just mention my thanks to Mr. Steve Thornton. I don't know if any of our Belfast friends know Steve. He's the Director of Hockey Operations at the Stanaline Belfast Giants. I was in Belfast 2 years ago for a week, and through our Sister City connections, Steve welcomed us to a couple of nights of hockey at the SSE Arena. It was talking about the hospitality. We were welcomed in grand style. So I'm looking forward to getting back to Belfast, watching some more hockey, and seeing our friends there. That's it for today. Please check tnwac.org to become a member or make a gift to the World Affairs Council, and check our archive of webinars, where this one will be posted at youtube.com/TNWAC. Have a safe day, and that's it from Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you again. Bye-bye.